and without a loss of a man, I don't think even the infantry down in Mersing Town knocked over at the bridge at Mersing Town. I don't think we lost a man there either.
Yes.
And years later, in 1945, yeah, I think it was 45, late 44 or early 45, when I was in a camp at Tamuang, which is a bit south of Konyu. I was caught talking through the fence, and I was paraded in front of the guardhouse.
Yes.
And you know, they leave you there to think things over for at least half an hour. It seemed an hour or more, because you know, you're wondering now what's going to happen next. And a Jap officer came out who could speak English, and he went and stood on my left side. This was rather surprising, because I was quite deaf in this ear by the time we were prisoners from gun blast, because I was on that side of the gun. And I asked him would he mind coming to the other side, and he obligingly did. So then we wanted to know what unit what was I? And I told him I was a gunner, and then he wanted to know where had I been in action. I told him we'd been up at Tamuang or Mersing. And you know what, his whole attitude changed then. He said, just stay here until I've gone and then dismiss yourself. Now, as you know, the Japs had a high regard for a fierce soldier, one that just killed a lot of the enemy. And we killed 2,000 of them.
Yes.
It wasn't just our gun, it might have been, well, the infantry probably did a bit of it too, but we really gave them a doing at Tamuang.
Yeah, it's amazing.
The same on the west coast. It was the 2nd 15th that seemed to do the brunt of the artillery firing on the west coast. But that was just an aside, because you know, he's one of the Japs that I did have a little respect for.
Yes.
There are only two others.
Yeah. So we go to the 15th now. And
now we're the 15th.
Yeah, and 8:30 at night when the guns stopped firing. What was the impact on you when that happened?
Well, we felt that we'd been let down dreadfully. We were all exhausted. I think we just flopped down on the grass or the ground and went to sleep. You know, at night, once we knew that it was Phetburi. And then the message came through about 8, I think, at night. But the aerial bombing continued the whole time up till, say, dark on the 15th.
Yes.
The Allies' guns firing the other way, yes, they were firing until they decided to, you know, put a shell down the spout and you fire it, and that's how you split the barrel.
Yes.
So they did that, you see, as you could imagine.
Yeah.
And that was you know, we just felt.
Yes.
And the next morning, I think we got the order to all bring all our gear to what was, it's where the Australian consulate is now.
Is it the Padang?
At the end of Orchard Road.
Oh yes.
The northern end of Orchard Road, in that large area there is where the Australian, it's not a consulate, it's an ambassador's.
Yes, embassy,
Yeah.
That was where you mustered.
And that's where we made sure that no one could ever fire our guns again and that sort of thing. You know, we ruined the dial sights or the firing mechanisms.
Yes. Yeah. And how did you get out to Selarang Barracks?
I walked.
Did you? Yeah. How long did it take?
How do you think we would get there?
Yeah.
We were, now I think that the capitulation was the 15th, and I'd say we were there for the whole of the 16th, and on the 17th or 18th off we went to the Changi area, I would call it, because the camp we moved to was one called Butterworth, and it was a new sawn timber camp. No paint on it, it was just, you know, rough sawn timber. And we were there for a few weeks. And that was where it was, well, the prisoners decided that the Jap money was no good, but the single Straits money was okay. And we had enormous rings with 2 up. And when one fella got all the money, he collected the lot, well then he'd dole it out to everybody else to keep the game going.
Yes, yeah.
Because we believed it was worthless.
Yes, yes, yeah. If only you'd known.
Yeah, but that really was the, you know, the attitude by then. That, we're stuck here, so might as well make the best of it.
Now, can we move forward now to March 1943?
Oh yes.
When you became a part of Don Force.
Yes.
And went to Thailand.
Well, in the meantime,
yes,
we moved out of that Butterworth camp.
Yes.
And we were on the ground floor of one of the Gordon Highlander buildings.
Yes. And
they were about either 3 or 4 floors of large rectangular buildings, you know, there's a whole barrack square in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And we were on the floor of one of those buildings. They were clean and then they'd been swept out. They were just concrete floor, nothing else, of course. We had to, if you're going to make a bed, you had to find some timber and make it yourself and that sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, the word got around that we were going to Thailand. And of course it was beautifully embellished about there'd be plenty of food there and don't worry, you know, it'll be a prisoner's delight. And no, that's the way. We were then driven by truck to Singapore Station where we trained. Took all day to get us in the train because I remember we left about 4 in the afternoon and off we went. When we crossed the causeway and we went through to Hobaro. And by another 50 miles up it would be dark, and of course that was the first night.
Yes.
And this went on, I think we had breakfast at Kuala Lumpur the next morning and this sort of thing. And it was about, I would say about 5 days at least getting to Ban Pong.
Yes. Yeah. And when you got off the train in Ban Pong,
well, we were a bit luckier than some of the Air Force because they even brought a piano with them.
Yes, yes.
They were told to bring it too. Oh, do know it'd be good. Have a piano. So there must have been a few good schemers amongst the IJA.
Yes, yeah, yeah. So what was your, you know,
well, I think
you were going to this land of milk and honey. Now, what was your feeling when you arrived there?
The Ban Pong looked a bit devastated. It had a large railway yard next to it, which had been bombed. I don't know that it had by then, though. I think it might have been, because when we went to Chumphong on the Christmas, that had all happened by then.
Yes.
Yeah. And that was only, no, that would be 44, 45, early 45.
40,
when I got there.
Yes, yes.
No, but then we were entrained on a train on the new line, which had been laid. They were just single track.
Yes.
And we all had to go over to a siding where it was, and they were just got 4 wheels and a flat top.
Yes.
A very homemade sort of a flat top, as though that they might have even been just put on a bogie or something like that,
yes.
because they seemed to be a very makeshifty sort of train. But the whole train was these flat tops. You could see the engine at the end, and then there was nothing. That's it, just the flat tops. And that took us until they ran out of line.
Yes.
And that was somewhere south of Tasso, or Kanchanaburi.
Yes.
No, not Tasso.
No.
Kanchanaburi.
Yes, I follow. And now you tell me you stopped in Canberra.
Yeah, we got there, and well, we were ordered off the train, but they'd wanted to go back, obviously. And we were told that we just had to fend for ourselves, and if you want to camp there, you can camp under one of these bushes. There are a lot of bushes, you know, about 6 or 8 feet high.
Yes.
And they kept the sun off you in the daytime, but that's about all they did.
But it was
pretty cold at night.
Yeah, but it was pretty hot by the day too.
Yeah.
If you were there in March going on to early April.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what was the water supply like at Canberra?
Water?
How did you get your water?
out of the river.
Did you?
I'm not conscious of any wood tanks.
You were able to go and have a swim and refresh yourself?
Well, sort of. There wasn't too much water in there. See, the wet season is what, about
late April,
May
through to
you have
October.
bamboo rains in April
Yes.
for about a fortnight, and then nothing for another fortnight. And then she starts properly and lasts till about October. And in that early months, like January, February, March, it's dusty and hot and dry, and the river was such that, as I think I told you yesterday, that we would have to all jump off and push the boat when it went aground, only on sand or something. It wasn't as though it was damaged underneath. Yes. But there was so little water, and unless you could pick a route where the water was a little deeper, it'd run aground. And then, you know, this was happening all the time because they were all Thai boatmen. The Japs never tried to take over the boats. Yes. There must have been some agreement there because, see, the Japs were allowed into Thailand and there was an agreement. Yes. They were allowed in.
Absolutely.
And that's probably what happened.
Yeah. So from Canterbury, where did you go?
Well, we must have walked as far as Konyu. Carting, we must have had a truck or two to cart quality, you know what a quality is. KWALI. Yes. Yes. Rice cooker. Well, you see, they're cast iron. Someone must have carted them up for us because they wouldn't expect a man to carry one of them.
Well, Air Force carried them. They had no trucks.
They did carry them.
Yes, they had to carry them.
They had to carry them.
Yeah, like this.
Oh, did they really?
They had to share them around.
Over their heads. Yeah, like a hat. Yeah. They did have to in Air Force. Yeah, it was, we didn't do that. No. But we had various officers and sergeant majors who cared for the troops sufficiently to find out how everybody was getting on. And, you know, any of those that were falling out, they were taking care of. They were carrying their gear for them and this sort of thing. You see, a lot of that went on in those days. Yes. Yes.
Now, do you remember the names of any of them?
Of?
Those officers and warrant officers?
Well, they would have been, you know, our own unit officers. Of course. They were all second 10. Yes. Yeah. But no, I can't remember individually. Well, I mean, like that's Fred Dunstan was one of our troop officers, and the other one was, and there were two that came over with us. No, I can't recall his name at the moment. But,
so from Konyu, I think you had to clear the ground and start building a bit of a camp there, did you?
At Konyu, yes, we helped build a camp. And as soon as we built it, we were chased out up the road to the next place, which would only be probably 3 kilos away from Konyu. Yes. Those camps weren't very far apart.
So what was the name of the next place?
Well, that was Hintok.
Hintok
Road Camp.
Road,
yeah,
okay.
Road Camp.
Yep. Yeah. And was it partly established, or do you remember?
Well, it was tents.
Yeah.
See, the Konyu one was all the bamboo buildings with atap. You know what atap is, don't you? Yes. Well, the atap roofs and flattened bamboo decks.
For the back,
Yeah, well, no, this Hintok one, we were in Jap army tents, I would say. And when we were working on the railway, this is where the tents let us down a bit. You'd come home and you discovered that the stitching, joining 2 sheets of tent material had given way, and all that water fell on top of your blanket during the day. And you'd have to sleep with this wet blanket.
Now in Hintok...
And we never got any replacements.
No. In Hintok Road Camp, do you remember how you got out of Hintok Road Camp? If you were working on the railway? Yes. Well, what were you doing on the railway? What particular work were you doing?
Well, we started work on Anzac Day.
Yes.
And that was notable because we all knew when Anzac